Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on the hazardous weather graphic, we've got a winter storm warning out here for the northern panhandle, both the Juneau and Haines boroughs, and probably on up the Klondike Highway towards Skagway. That kicks into effect about noontime tomorrow. And then there's winter weather advisories here south and southeast, especially over toward the border. And for lesser amounts of snow, looking for 4 to 8 inches of snow to fall for the afternoon tomorrow and tomorrow night for, again, the northern areas here, and lesser amounts down to the south. And Prince of Wales Island, no advisories at all, as probably snow will change to rain a little more rapidly. Up to the north here, the north slopes of the Alaska Range, is a wind chill advisory out through about noon tomorrow, for tonight through noon tomorrow, for 40-mile-per-hour winds producing 40 degree below zero wind chills. And then back to the west here, not a wind chill advisory, but a wind advisory. And that's out through tomorrow as well, for tonight through tomorrow, for winds to continue to gust 40 to 45 miles per hour, strongest winds higher elevations, such as Indian Mountain, for example. And that's for the Kobuk Valley, Koyukuk Valley, and on down toward Galena, possibly into the northern Kuskokwim Valley. And again, that'll be winds gusting 40 to possibly 45 miles per hour, but the wind chills expected to stay above 40 below. And for the satellite imagery today, we've got a low here south of the eastern Aleutians, and a front, what looks to be a weakening front here across the Fox Islands up to the Alaska Peninsula, spreading moisture northward here into Kodiak Island, and then some showers and areas of rain here back to the west toward Adak on out toward Shemya, a little more extensive up here to the north, and colder temperatures more mixed with rain, few rain and snow showers around the Pribilof Islands today. Well, we have one band of moisture here moving into the southeast coast, really not much in the way of any precipitation with that, just clouds you can see dissipating as they rolled in. Clouds moving up over southern Alaska today as well, ahead of the next front down here to the south. Bulk of the moisture still in this zone here, and that'll be coming northward during the evening and overnight hours tonight and into tomorrow. Rolling that through again, you can see that one band pushing past Kodiak, the next one here bringing rain and snow up to the area there back across the Alaska Peninsula. And there's some light precipitation coming up into Prince William Sound and along the North Gulf Coast, mostly along the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula area there. And otherwise the interior, again, breezy and wind chills down as low as 40 below, as I mentioned, for the eastern Alaska Range, and winds gusting 25 to 35 miles an hour. Some areas seeing gusts as high as 45 miles an hour. And that's expected to remain through tonight and into tomorrow. You can see the gradient associated with those winds here. Pretty good south of the upper Yukon Valley, all the way back to the southeast or the southwest coast here, Bristol Bay. And we got a snow changing to rain situation going there today, with pretty much rain now along the Alaska Peninsula, mixture, Bristol Bay. Snow on the increase here over the southwest interior, mostly in the upslope areas of the Auckland and Kilbrook Mountain areas, Kuskokwim Range, and same thing along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, and also some moisture spreading up into Prince William Sound with gusty winds along with that down into Kodiak Island. And again, moisture just edging its way up toward the southeast coast there, not really making landfall, at least through this afternoon, and kind of a tightening gradient there for an increase in the winds. Otherwise dry here through the interior. Then you back into areas of fog and flurries along the central and eastern Arctic coast. Barrow reporting fog today, and then areas of light snow from Dead Horse on over toward Kaktovik. Winds not all that bad up there at all. And then this rather weak front here along the Alaska Peninsula with rain, heaviest amounts from about Sitkinak over toward Chignik, Sandpoint, and then over toward Falls Pass, up to possibly half an inch of rain falling with that, and then more showery conditions out to the west there. Mostly rain showers, Adak and Atgull, the temperatures in the mid to upper 30s out in those areas, with a little cooler up here, so rain and snow showers from the Pribilofs and over the southern Bering Sea. And the forecast for tonight is that front continues to lift northward here. So look for rain across Kodiak, periods of light rain for Kodiak Island tonight, and tight gradient here, gale force winds for the North Gulf Coast. And pretty breezy here for Cook Inlet as well, and possibly in the Prince William Sound. Tightening gradient, that one band of moisture hanging along the coast. Chance of rain or snow along the North Gulf, or the north side of the southeast coast here. Otherwise staying dry with just generally cloudy skies. Staying mostly clear up over the interior with, again, breezy conditions, eastern Alaska Range into the central interior areas, Kobuk, Koyukuk valleys, lightening up across the Brooks Range, light wind conditions there. Out to the Arctic coast, patchy fog along the coast, otherwise not too bad conditions, mostly VFR in nature, and some light snow possible for St. Lawrence Island. As this area swings across, look for some light snow or snow showers to move across the Seward Peninsula, especially the south side during the night tonight, and then they'll shift off later tonight and after midnight to about St. Lawrence Island. Area precipitation hangs up along the southwest coast and out to the west, kind of a mixture, colder air coming south and southwestward. So the snow showers or snowfall levels could reach sea level out towards Shimmy at about Kiska Island, otherwise mixture, Adak and Atka. And then for tomorrow, we've got that trough here from about just west of Nikolsky, extending northward there to St. Lawrence Island. So that'll keep St. Lawrence Island kind of in the snowy situation there, and a little breezy, milder, so mixed rain and snow for the Pribilofs, rain for the eastern Aleutians, mixture of rain or snow showers, or rain and snow showers for the Aleutians, and winds continue tightening gradient here along the North Gulf Coast. And actually all of these Gulf of Alaska here, look for those winds to be on the increase, gale force winds definitely coming into the picture. And then the snow, winter storm warnings out for the northern panhandle, again the Juneau, Haynesboro areas. Looking for 4 to 8 inches as that warning kicks in about noontime tomorrow and stays out through tomorrow night. Some areas could see even heavier amounts than that in the upslope areas there, higher elevations. Less snowfall down to the south, and rain now falling along the coast by late in the afternoon. Along the North Gulf Coast, there will be a narrow band of mixed precipitation, but it'll be snow inland with any elevation, and then rain out right along the coastline. Mixture of rain and snow, Kodiak Island, a chance of. Scattered showers, the Alaska Peninsula with lighter winds. Stays pretty breezy here over southern interior Alaska area, especially toward Delta Junction. Could see gusts 50 miles per hour or more there in the Big Delta area. Lighter winds, less gradient up to the north, still dry, clear, and probably below zero. And for the outlook, first day of the weekend on Sunday, shaping up like this. Northeast winds out here, so colder temperatures and snow showers to go along with it. Just scattered amounts, heavier moisture back up toward the Russian coast. But snow showers extending southward as colder air rides in on those northerly winds. So snowfall levels falling down to about sea level for Adak and Atka, all the way out to Shimia, but really scatters out that way. So don't look for much in the way of any accumulations. Chance of rain and snow showers, eastern Aleutians, and then we've got an intense 950 millibar low coming northward. At this point in time, looks like it'll move to just south of Sitkinak by Saturday afternoon. Strong jet coming associated with this, so a big push of warm air, a load of moisture coming with it. Storm force winds for sure, Kodiak Island, the Barrens into Kachemak Bay, and definitely gales for the North Gulf Coast of the 40 to 45 knot range. Gales, wind on the increase here for the Panhandle, also a big push of warm air with that, so snow changing to rain quite rapidly with those with that big push of warmer air kind of hanging on to the snow there over the northern areas, Lynn Canal, Klondike Highway, up toward the pass, at least initially, and a little bit of a band of moisture rotating in, so could see some light snow into the possibly 40-mile country, mostly along and south of the Alaska Range there, and then the eastern Alaska Range as well. Dry for the Kuskokwim Valley, maybe some flurries over the Kilberg Mountains. West Coast here, pretty good, kind of windy, cool, and staying dry, and even more clearing over the central and northern interior. And again, looks like the Arctic coast, North Slope will stay VFR through Saturday, at least the first day of the weekend. And taking a look at low temperatures forecast for tonight, again, 25 to 35 below. Some areas could drop toward 40 below, and that'll extend down in toward the 40-mile country eastern interior, just north of the Alaska Range there. Copper River Basin still down around 15 below or so, mid-minus 20s into the Koyukuk Valley, and 10 to 25 below for the Arctic coast and North Slope. right around 0 here for the northwest coast, and the plus side is 0 for the Seward Peninsula. Mid-30s for lows here. Mild southerly conditions there, keeping it above freezing or pushing the temperatures above freezing. Definitely Kodiak Island, upper 30s out along the Aleutians, 34 for on Alaska, and temperatures ranging from around 10 over the northern panhandle to the upper 20s out along the coast. And then for the highs tomorrow, about 25 below there for Chalkyitsik and Fort Yukon, as well as Venati, and 10 to 20 below eastern interior down into the just north of the Alaska Range, Toka Northway. Milder lower 20s Seward Peninsula at Nome, and 20s turn into the 35 to 40 degree range there over northeast Bristol Bay. Lower 40s Kodiak Island. Warming temperatures continue for south central Alaska, upper 20s to lower 30s, and upper mid 20s to lower 30s for the Panhandle. And for lows Saturday morning, milder but still down in the minus 20s up over the northeast interior, below 0 for the Arctic coast, and 30 to 35 here for the southwest interior. Lows teens to mid 20s south central Alaska now, lower 30s out over the Aleutians, southeast coast, upper 30s along the central and south coast, lower 20s up there to the north, and then the high temperatures all above freezing now. Warm air surging northward, so 30s to lower 40s, and mid to upper 30s south central Alaska. Warmest temperatures Kodiak Island, northeast Bristol Bay, staying a tad below 0 along the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the significant weather charts here. Got IFR coming up close to the coastline for Friday morning. IFR in over the southwest mountains here, and marginal for the Aleutians. Kind of a break there for the Alaska Peninsula. IFR now up along the east side of the western Alaska Range down to the across Kachemak Bay into the Aleutian Range, east side of Kodiak Island, western Prince William Sound, southern Kenai Peninsula, VFR for the Panhandle, and mostly VFR up here in the interior, a little bit of low stuff up there along the over the Yukon Flats, and that's about it. And then we'll see for Friday afternoon, some marginal VFR gets right up along the coast there. IFR staying back toward Nunivak Island on up toward St. Lawrence Island. VFR through the Straits, Seward Peninsula, all of the northern and central interior, right down into the Susitna Valley, Cook Inlet, VFR, but IFR over toward the Alaska Range, IFR along the east side of the Kenai Peninsula, Portage, angling along the Coast Range into the northern Panhandle now, so a big deterioration in conditions from morning to afternoon there for the southeast coast. And then that continues Saturday morning, IFR across the entire area there, and IFR still lingering up here along the North Gulf Coast, a little less, but still there for the western Alaska Range, and just kind of oscillating here along the coast with the heavier IFR staying offshore. That continues into Saturday afternoon as well. Here, Alaska Peninsula, up near Nunivak Island, up to St. Lawrence Island, back to now including the Pribilofs, IFR for Saturday afternoon. IFR here building. This will actually be coming northward right onto the coast Saturday evening, Saturday night into Sunday. And for Anaktuvuk for tomorrow, Friday, I'm sorry, VFR also for Adigan. And Friday's forecast for Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR flying conditions lowest on the eastern approach. And that same pattern, lowest conditions, marginal VFR here for rainy on the east side, probably VFR off to the west. And then for windy, VFR, Isabel, marginal VFR, Mentasta VFR, and Tanita also VFR. Portage though, IFR, and Chilkoot and White, VFR becoming marginal in the afternoon, possibly even to IFR late in the afternoon. And for the freezing levels here at the surface, just north of the Pribilofs, northern Bristol Bay, just south of the North Gulf Coast, and then through the Panhandle, 2,000 feet right up here to not quite to Middleton Island there, and east of Kodiak, and then down across Dixon Entrance. Looking at icing above about 4,000 feet here, southeast flow, surges of moisture coming up toward the coast. Could be some areas of considerable moderate rime icing. Southern Kenai Peninsula over toward Cape Yakataga and possibly Cordova, but probably just looking at isolated moderate in the remainder of the shaded areas here. Southwest interior up to St. Lawrence Island, really scattering out down toward the Pribilofs and over the Aleutians in the southern Bering Sea. And at jet stream levels here, strong flow up to 200 knots here out of the west and northwest over the Pacific. That's about 230 miles per hour. Takes a dive to the south, comes northward, splits here, 130 knots. Actually, this portion will be advancing northward again Saturday night and be right up into southern Alaska on Sunday. 9,000 foot winds looking like this. Pretty good here, 35 to as high as 60 knots across southern Alaska range, falling back to 25 out toward Norton Sound. Northerlies just 10 to 20 here for the Aleutians. And southeast coast up to 45 knots there right along the south coast and lighter over the northern interior. 30 knots though for the Arctic coast out of the east, but much lighter here over the northeast interior. And then we're looking at 15 to 20 knots here at 3,000 feet over the eastern interior with kind of a narrow band here, picking up actually 55 knots with this surge of wind coming in from the east there that extends from the just north of Iliamna Lake back out into the Gulf of Alaska. 50 to 55 knot winds, but only 10 knots for Kodiak Island there, and then 35 along and off the south coast, much lighter over toward the border. And out to the west, northerlies 15 to 25 knots, strongest around Adak and Atka, also up over the northern Bering Sea. As far as turbulence goes, quite a bit of moderate chop in the picture here, especially over the southern and southwest interior. All the North Gulf Coast panhandle, look for moderate turbulence below about 4,000 feet here, and that extends up to the western Alaska range on the south side. Pretty smooth north slope, eastern Arctic coast on down through the eastern interior.
A pair of planets. Greetings, stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silvaplot Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida.
And I'm Dehne Regis, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory, and we're here to help you find your way around the sky. James, I need you to get prepared for this. Start stretching those hamstrings and dust off your dancing shoes, because we are having not one, not two, not three, but 4 conjunctions this week.
What? No way.
Yes way. We will have 2 planetary conjunctions. The planets Jupiter and Mars are coming together, as are Mercury and Saturn.
And what's the other 2 conjunctions?
The moon will visit each pair of planets, making 2 additional conjunctions. I think I just blew his mind. Anyway, maybe we'll find him outside under the stars. Let's go. Oh good, you're still alive.
Yeah, sorry about that, but I just couldn't wait to get outside and see all these conjunctions.
Excellent. Now, we have our sky set to Thursday, January 11th at 6:30 a.m. facing southeast.
Wow, you even got up early for this one? It must be special.
Yeah, I only wake up before dawn for the good stuff like this.
I see the waning crescent moon next to 2 bright pinpoints of light. Those must be one of the pairs of planets you were talking about. Let me see, which planets are they?
Well, I'll give you some hints. The dimmer one should look a little red, and the brighter one rhymes with Moopiter.
Ah, Mars and Jupiter. Good clues, by the way. So, on that morning before the sun comes up, we have a conjunction of Mars and Jupiter with a conjunction of the moon with Mars and Jupiter. A double conjunction.
Well, let's fly up for a closer look.
These 3 extraterrestrial objects just look like they're close together, but in fact, they're separated by millions of miles. The moon is the closest of the 3 to Earth by far. That night, it will be about 247,000 miles from Earth.
The jump from the moon to the planets is a huge one. Mars is second closest at 170 million miles from Earth, and Jupiter is even farther at almost 540 million miles. So, 2 conjunctions down, 2 to go. Are you ready for the next ones?
I can't wait.
This is the sky for Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. But when we advance time a little further to 6:45 and 7 a.m. and 7:15, just before the sun rises, you might find 2 more lights just above the southeastern horizon.
Those are the planets Mercury and Saturn, and they...
Hey, hold on. How'd you know they were Mercury and Saturn?
They have labels? But of course they won't have labels for you, so Mercury will be slightly brighter and slightly higher in the sky than Saturn, at least for now.
Now, check this out. Let's advance time one day at a time. Here is 7:15 a.m. on Friday, January 12th, And January 13th. The moon slid closer to the pair of planets while they moved one on top of the other.
That must be the third conjunction.
Exactly.
Okay, if we go forward to January 14th, Saturn is now the higher of the two planets while Mercury is heading closer to the horizon. And the moon is closing in. This is kind of a conjunction.
Yes, and you can keep dancing because if we go forward to January 15th, the moon will have seemed to have hopped over the planets and be barely visible as the slimmest little waning crescent you've ever seen. At this point, the moon is now 251,000 miles away, Mercury is over 110 million miles away, and Saturn is a whopping 1 billion miles away.
At that low altitude, they'll be tough to see, but it'll help if you have a clear view of the southeastern horizon, free from buildings and trees. Give it a try. Wow, what a great week to get up before it's sunrise and look for 4 planets and the moon.
You can see Jupiter next to Mars between 4 a.m. and sunrise. And on Thursday morning, the crescent moon will pay a visit.
Then, between about 7 and 7:30 a.m., look for Mercury and Saturn low in the sky, and the crescent moon will swing by January 14th and 15th.
It's an amazing universe when you keep looking up.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's excuse me, sea ice analysis. Still closing off and expanding westward here. North of the Bering Strait, even south now, still edging its way out a little bit, not too much. Still quite an open area there north of St. Lawrence Island, and then back down to about Nunivak Island, especially on the eastern side there, in toward northern Kuskokwim Bay, and still increasing the sea ice a little bit here for northern Cook Inlet, but that'll all change with the incoming warm air coming in over the weekend. And for the southeast coast tomorrow, gale force winds just about, well, all along the coast here and over areas of the inside waters. Southeast 40, dropping back about 35, picking back up to 40 on the north coast, seas 17 to 18 feet. North 20, Northern Lynn Canal, 4-foot seas. And north 40 knots, Stevens Passage, and southeast gusting to 35 knots for Clarence Strait. And then for Saturday, gale force winds continue here, 35 knots on the coast and 40 knots out of the southeast here, 30 to 40 knots, Clarence Strait to the central inside waters. Lynn Canal still north at 30. And for Prince William Sound, east winds 40 knots tomorrow, 10-foot seas. We got storm warnings out for the North Gulf Coast, 21-foot seas there. Otherwise, 40 to 45 knots on into the Barren Islands, Kachemak Bay, northeast 45, Southern Cook Inlet, northeast 40, north of the Forelands, northeast at 30. And then for Saturday, no change here, northern Cook Inlet, still minimum gales over the southern Cook Inlet area, east 45 knots, Kachemak Bay, storm warnings for the Barren Islands, and easterlies 45 knots for the North Gulf Coast, 25-foot seas, east 30 for Prince William Sound. Bristol Bay, east winds 25 knots, northeast 25 here from Sitkinak down to Castle Cape, and then it turns easterly on down toward Cape Sarachev, just 15 knots on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, northeast 25 there for eastern Kodiak Island, and then those big increase in the winds there, 45 knots coming in Saturday for Kodiak out of the east, northeast 30 here, Bristol Bay down the north side of the Alaska Peninsula, 20 knots here, a little bit of a break there for the south side of the peninsula, and about Castle Cape to Sitkinak east at 40. Aleutians, east-northeast 15 to 20 knots here for the eastern areas. 20 to 25, central Aleutians all the way out to Shemya, more northeast out in this area, seas about 14 to 16 feet. And then for Saturday, lighter winds north-northwest at 20, right across the central Aleutians, more northerly, but still just 20 knots for the Fox Islands. And looking at the southwest coast, east, 25 knots here tomorrow, 8-foot seas. Stronger, a little stronger, northeast 30, Pribilofs up to St. Matthew Island and St. Lawrence Island as well with 11-foot seas. And those come down a little bit there, but still small craft advisories, east 25 knots, northeast 25 to 30 along the southwest coast, and 20 knots for the greater St. Paul area. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east winds 20 knots tomorrow, lighter on the central coast, and then back up to 20 knots here on the west side, and then from Cape Thompson on down to the Strait, east 25 knots. Chukchi on Saturday, northeast 20 to 25 there, with easterlies at 20 on the west coast, and then brisk wind advisories here central and east side turn into gales, east 35 for that eastern zone toward demarcation point. And for tonight again, chance of some moisture along the north coast of the Panhandle, definitely some moisture in along the North Gulf Coast into Prince William Sound. Inland, elevation-wise higher, definitely in the form of snow, trying to change the rain along the outer coast, more so for Kodiak. Some snow beginning to edge into the southwest interior. It stays wet back across eastern Aleutians. And then for Friday, tomorrow, tighter gradient. Again, those gale force winds, storms here with this trough coming northward there. Got storm warnings out for the North Gulf Coast tomorrow, especially on the east side, with good gales all across eastern Gulf of Alaska. And Kodiak Island, not so much tomorrow, but the next day. And then kind of breezy up there. Wind chill advisories out over the central interior, and or wind chill advisory Alaska range. Wind advisory of the interior there for gusts 40 miles an hour, wind chills of 40 below. And then tomorrow is when the winter storm warning kicks in for the northern southeast coast, Haines and Juneau Borough. Rain down to the south, but Saturday, look for stronger winds and even more rain here. Definitely looks like pretty good winds coming into Kodiak near storm force along the North Gulf Coast. Windy Cook Inlet, south central Alaska. Staying cool, but even with the clear skies, look for a general warming trend in temperatures up there to the north. Breezy with snow showers out to the west there over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Thank you for joining us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.